Hello, this is the Jack and Dom radio show here on WPX 91.5 FM HD1 Marquette. Just want to let everyone know that the opinions said on the show do not represent the opinions of this radio station or the university. And if you so choose, you're able to get the recording of the show on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We're also currently on social media, so if you so choose, you can currently find us on Twitter and Facebook. Just look up the Jack and Dom radio show. That being said, good afternoon, everyone. Jack, how was your week? Oh, yeah.
I mean, my week's been pretty good so far. It's only Monday, but it was a hectic weekend, so I'm excited to start a new week. Speaking of the weekend, it was a tough outing for the NMU football team again this weekend. They lose to Tech for the 15th time in a row. I was at that game, and all I can say is, oh, brother, not again.
Yeah, I was there. Did not look good again. I got signed out.
Yeah, it was a rough game, I think. In all facets, the offense continued to be dysfunctional. Tech gained yards basically at will, and you also had a fumble 6 to top off the fun.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a muff.
Yeah, that was rough.
What was it? Another option play?
Yeah, a failed option. Once again, the forward pass was relatively non-existent. I mean, what do you expect when you have a converted wide receiver at quarterback? So, just another day in the world of NMU football as we don't even keep it close.
Yeah.
The joke we were making upstairs in the statistics area was, why even stay for the presentation of the Miners' Cup?
Yeah, I was walking out the building.
I mean, at that point, Tech is at the point where why even bring the trophy to the stadium? You know it's staying at home. We weren't winning that game.
Speaking of another note, I know you being a big Michigan fan, you guys beat us 31-20.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll come up again today. But
MSU has now lost 5 games in a row.
Yeah, you are right on the precipice of going winningless in the Big Ten. What a story that would be. For the first time since, what did we say, 1918 on the last show? It's been a long, long time since you went winless in the Big Ten. We'll see. Wasn't impressed by Michigan's performance, but we literally played one of our worst games of the season and still beat you relatively comfortably, so that's always nice to see. You were a bit overly confident, I think, going into the week, and I told you so.
I said what I said because being a fan is short for fanatic.
Sure.
So but in the halfway through the first quarter, I texted you to be like, all right, yep, that's the game. GG, I'm out. And then it kind of was close for a bit. I was working on my Halloween costume project. So
I mean, it's only going to get worse though, because Michigan's got the number 6 recruiting class in 2026, and Michigan State's is like 68th or something ridiculous like that, or 86th, or not anywhere close. You'll be losing your head coach, I'm sure, by the end of the season.
Probably.
So as a Michigan State football fan, you got to be feeling bad. I'm feeling pretty good.
I felt bad weeks ago. Anyway,
I know. But
on a more positive note, which was a complete surprise to me, our volleyball team beat Grand Valley.
Woo!
Which
it was a great upset.
That came out of nowhere. Although we did then lose to Wayne State,
and that was really competitive though. So
it was
2 very strong performances from that team. They started the season off rough, like we talked about at the beginning of the year, but have really made a nice comeback and have really had a strong kind of, I guess, midpoint of the season. So as we get closer and closer to the GLIAC tournament, I look forward to kind of seeing what they can do there. Similar story with the soccer teams as well. As the GLIAC tournaments approach, it's going to be interesting to see how they do.
In hockey, did you go to the hockey games?
I was at both.
Okay, I didn't. I should have gone. I had an opportunity to go to the second one. I didn't. I was tired.
You're a Michigan State fan. You got to be there.
I don't know. It was conflicting rivalries or conflict of interest. How about that?
I see.
I heard a lot of stuff went down, especially in the second game.
It did. There was, I like to make the joke that Michigan State likes to fight because you had obviously the fight in the tunnel a couple of years ago against Michigan, and then they got pretty rowdy with our players in that game. Game 1, I think less so, but then game 2, you had 4 Michigan State players in the box at once after a sequence of fights and a cross-check that happened.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've ever seen 6 players in the 2 penalty boxes at once. the NMU scoreboard obviously only has space for 2 on both sides, so it couldn't keep up. But they were really throwing hands. There were some punches flying throughout the game. I think there were 2 or 3 majors on Saturday night, and I think 1 or 2 on Friday for fighting. Mm-hmm. That was a big deal. Game 1 was not particularly close, but that's what happens when you have future Red Wings first-team goalie Trey Augustine in goal. Michigan State won that one comfortably, but Game 2 on Saturday was surprisingly competitive.
Yeah.
Going into the third period, they were tied 2-2, and the score line doesn't reflect how close that game really was. A lot of missed opportunities for NMU, especially on the power play and in the 4-on-3. So, I was impressed by how they played in that game. Obviously didn't get the result you wanted. But you go into CCHA play, you at least kept it close against 4 of the best teams in the country. I believe they're all in the top 15 now. So, you played the best of the best, and you looked okay. So now we'll see what happens when you play against CCHA competition. Fun to watch.
Anything in the NFL you want to bring up? Because I know Lions, it was the bye week. The Jets finally won a game.
They did it. Aaron Glenn.
Finally won a game.
It was a chaotic week.
Aaron Rodgers couldn't beat his whole team.
No, that was last night on Monday Night Football, and they went up big, and I thought maybe they could do it, but ultimately it didn't end up that way.
So the Packers-Steelers game is tonight?
No, it was last night. Sorry, I meant Sunday night. Packers won that game. I think the big ones is the fact that the Colts are having one of the best seasons I've ever seen, and they were literally projected to be the worst team in the NFL, and they're now sitting at 7-1.
Yeah.
With the AFC 1 seed staring them in the face. I think the other couple relevant results were the Dolphins winning against the Falcons in blowout fashion. Tua actually had a good game. Which is surprising to me. The Thursday night game is also surprising. Carson Wentz did not look good against the Chargers. And then it's always good to see the Bears lose as they lost to Tyler Huntley and the Ravens. So it was an interesting week in the NFL, filled with upsets, filled with good games. So it was fun to watch.
Now, we have a very short summary of what Happy usually like to expand on a lot of this stuff. But the reason is today is a very special show for us. We have 2 special guests from WJMN TV. Jake Durant and Thorne is here with us today. I do want to let everyone know that the opinions said by Jake Durant and Thorne do not reflect the opinions not just of this radio station, but also of WJMN TV and their affiliates. So don't go after their workplace. If they say something that you don't like, go after them. Anyway, I did not rehearse this intro at all, so sorry if it sounded all butchered or whatever. But Jake and Tor, how are you guys doing today?
We're doing really good. Really happy to be here again. Yes, my opinions are my own, so I'm not going to say anything too crazy today, but just happy to be here, Dominic. Thanks for the opportunity. As a former NMU Wildcat myself, it feels good to be back here on campus. Even just walking through the university center, it's great to see all the renovations that have happened and things like that. It looks completely different from when I used to go to school here. So it just feels good to be back and appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. All right.
That was the voice of Jake Durant.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself.
I'm Thorne, and appreciate you guys having us here today. Just hearing you guys talk about over the weekend, the NMU Tech game. Didn't go great, obviously, for NMU. Yeah. I had complicated feelings about that because, I don't typically work on a Saturday. But, I went into film. Dominic had filmed for us a couple times. And within 5 minutes of being there, who do I see? Dominic's there.
Yes. So to give some context, I was with the basketball team to go to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And initially, when it comes to these trips, it's usually a 2-day trip, usually 2-day or something longer. On the way there, I find out, no, it's actually a 1-day thing. Because I already had a backpack with extra pair of underwear, t-shirt, everything, right? Thinking, it's going to be another, second day. And I find out, no, it's actually just a 1-day thing. We're coming back up tonight. I'm like, oh, okay. So then we'll be able to go to the Michigan Tech game as a fan. I go to the game and I'm looking for Jake. I'm scouting out Jake. Be like, all right, let's see if I can avoid him. No, it's you. I see you, and I'm like, oh yeah. Hey, how you doing?
Well, that's all right. You wanted me to work on a Saturday, It is what it is.
All I'm hearing is excuses.
Yeah.
They don't want to work. They just say it, though.
Hey, I worked a double shift on Saturday, so I win because I worked football and hockey.
So
I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess the first question, what are some teams in your guys' opinion that you thought were going to be good but turned out to be bad, or teams that you thought would be bad actually quite surprisingly turned out to be good? Like what have you guys been seeing?
We're talking about high school?
Anything, yeah, any high school. I know, yeah, because we'll get into that. But
we just had the last week of the regular season for high school. I think one of the big surprise teams this year was the Escanaba Eskimos, because their coach has been kind of building the program the last couple of years, and they ended up 8-1 on the season.
Okay,
so great year for them.
Yeah. If we're sticking with high school football, and if you haven't really been following along, we have 18 teams in this year's MHSAA playoffs. That'll get started this week. Menominee in division, or the 11-player division. So there's 2 divisions, 11-player and then 8-player. Menominee was a team that had high expectations coming into the season, and they've definitely hit the stride. Undefeated team. I think they are one of the few teams that have everything you need to go all the way and compete for a state championship. I know they made it close a couple years ago, but that team's always really good. I think a big surprise team for me that, at least in my opinion, kind of came out of nowhere this season. It's in the 8-player division, and that's the Gogebic Miners, a team out of Bessemer. Really good team. They've only lost 1 game. Not really a traditional powerhouse in the 8-player league. I've been covering sports here in the area since 2018, and they're definitely not one of the traditional powerhouses, but they've been doing really well. Tor's hometown.
You got one. I gotta give the shout out.
Go ahead.
I gotta give the shout out my alma mater, the Norway Knights, undefeated, 9-0 on the season. So shout out to them. Their first undefeated season since I believe 1976. So
wow!
I couldn't let Jake give the shout out. I have to.
Yeah,
fair enough. And then of course you got your Kingsford, Marquette's back in the playoffs. The local high school here. They obviously have a tough road every year. They're in Division 3 now, so it could be a little bit easier. But I always say on any given night, Marquette can be the best team in the UP. I think they have overall the most talent. They have the big guys in the trenches that you want. They have the skill position players. They're very deep. Do I think they can put a run together and get there? It's going to be tough, but like I said, in Division 3 and not in Division 2 this year. I think they have what it takes. They've made multiple trips across the bridge and competed well downstate this year. And that's when you start to see things get kind of tough. You can get through the UP teams, but then you start hitting those downstate teams, the Saginaw's, the Detroit teams, and
DeWitt.
Things like that. DeWitt,
I know DeWitt's
like
very
that.
good.
But I think they do have everything you kind of want when you talk about playoffs. But if I had to put my money on one team, I think it's Menominee. I think Menominee has a real chance to go down there and win a state championship this year.
I know a team that in college that just kind of came out of nowhere and can go to the college football player, Vanderbilt. They're number 9 in the country right now. Vanderbilt is usually that school in the SEC that's always in the bottom of the barrel, looking up on everyone else. But now it's different. And then in the NFL, I think we brought them up earlier. The Colts coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, no one expected that. Daniel Jones at quarterback.
Daniel Jones, making them look good.
I don't know if I'm a Colts believer just yet. I know they're 7-1. We're like halfway through the season.
Yeah,
but I don't see it. I think there's going to be a point. Jonathan Taylor obviously is going to have to stay healthy. He's kind of been the one that's kind of leading that charge. I mean, he's been unbelievable. He leads the league in rushing touchdowns. They don't have like an elite receiver.
Yeah.
Michael Pittman Jr. has had a really good season for them. Josh Downs is a slot receiver that's really good and can find open space. Tyler Warren, he came out of Penn State this draft, and I know the Chicago Bears passed up on him for Colston Loveland. Shout out to Colston, but
go blue.
Just
looking
and also,
like the best tight end might be Tyler Warren, and him being out on the field just opens up that passing game. And like you mentioned, Daniel Jones looked like he was about to get run out of the league in New York, but then you come and you find a situation that's stable. You have the pieces around you, and he's looking really good. But do I believe in the Colts? I just don't.
You need a little more time.
I need a little bit more time. I need them to beat a couple more, upper echelon teams, and then I'll start believing.
Okay.
But they look good. They do.
I'm a believer. I think the AFC is wide open this year. You have Baltimore, which I think is a surprise team in terms of who's at the bottom.
Yeah, we thought they were going to be good. Now they're in the bottom looking up.
Yeah, I mean, even pre-Lamar Jackson injury, they didn't look that good.
Mm-hmm.
And now that he's out for an extended period of time, it's been tough for them to find wins. So I think them beating at the bottom is a surprise. But I believe in the Colts. They've got a lot of pieces on that team, like you mentioned. I think Daniel Jones just needed a new, fresh start outside of New York, which seems to be a trend for a lot of players. Saquon Barkley's gotten a new life over in Philly. It's something about that city where as soon as the players leave those New York teams, they seem to find their footing. So I think another surprise too was just how bad the Jets have been this year. I mean, we didn't expect the Jets to be like Super Bowl contenders, but I think the fact that they had negative 20 passing yards a few weeks ago and some of the other issues they've had have surprised me.
Yeah,
I think.
I've not seen that negative 20 in the NFL.
I guess for a surprise team for me, especially after they started 0-2, my favorite team, the Chicago Bears, they were on a 4-game win streak. Obviously, yesterday did not go as expected, but the Ravens, I feel like, have a good roster. I didn't expect the Bears to lose to Snoop Huntley. Things happen. But if they get Lamar back, I feel like they'll be looking pretty good. But Bears, some concern with Caleb. I think he'll turn it around, but not looking great right now.
So, name, image, and likeness, the NIL, something that relatively new in college sports. What are you guys seeing in how things are changing in collegiate sports now? What do you guys see in that? I
mean, Michigan has been able to benefit from it. Bryce Underwood still needs some time to develop, but obviously that's he's kind of the face of it right now. I feel like I don't know if Jake has any thoughts about Michigan and NIL. It doesn't seem as prevalent in D2 and stuff like that. But
it's tough for me. I'm kind of on the edge with this. I do think players should get paid for, obviously what they do, the work they put in, the revenue that they generate and things like that. But it just seems like it's so non-regulated right now. Each and every day there's a different wrinkle that comes in. I know we just saw in college basketball and NBA G Leaguers coming back to play college hoops. And that came out of nowhere. Tom Izzo spoke about that actually. They had no clue. They were blindsided by it. They didn't even know that was a thing. So you're starting to see teams try to explore different avenues and find an advantage through a lot of unregulated rules and things like that. I do think maybe if you're going to go leaning towards the more pro route, like a professional team, you need to have a salary cap. Each team would have to have a GM. I do think it's helping parity, but it's helping it with the top 12 dozen teams that have the money. Those teams are doing well. You talk about Vanderbilt. There is Indiana that's coming in. So there are teams that are finding their way through this era. But when you talk about those smaller schools that just don't have the funds, it's tough. I think the transfer portal, that needs to be much more regulated. I think if you're going to have players getting paid, there needs to be different rules with the transfer portal. You're seeing players literally transfer each and every year. There's players at 4 years, they're at 4 different schools. And you can't really blame the player for going out and finding the better situation for them. And I don't want to keep players in a situation that might not be good, but I think there should be a limit to how many times you can transfer. Do you go back to where you have to sit out a year and things like that? But 4 players getting paid, but I do think we have to. I don't think players should be getting $4 million a year in college.
That's a lot. Commitments for an 18-year-old coming in.
Commitments don't mean anything at this point. The player makes a commitment announcement. You're like, cool, he'll be there for a year. If things don't go well, he's out of there. It's harder to build rosters. It's harder, to do things like that. Basically what's happening, you see good players going to teams that aren't as good, playing well, and they're using that as kind of a springboard to get to an Alabama, to get to a Michigan, and things like that. So find, Tennessee, things like that. So it's kind of tough. I don't know, man. I do think players should get paid, but I do think it needs to be more regulated.
It absolutely is the Wild West right now, but I'm not sure what power necessarily the NCAA has to control it. It seems like And also the power seems like it's kind of going into, it seems like the Big Ten and SEC are like the two big power conferences right now. So it will be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Okay.
I've got a follow-up question to this one. I want to know what your kind of take is on how it's different across the sports. You've got sports like football where you've got a number of guys on the roster that don't get playing time, and so it makes a lot of sense for them to transfer because they're sitting on the bench for several years or all 4 years very often, versus a sport like hockey or basketball where almost every athlete is in the rotation on the ice or on the court playing. Yeah. So I'm curious if there's kind of a difference there, especially for NMU, right? We're a D1 hockey school and we're competing against schools with a lot more funding and a lot more ability to go out and get players.
Notre Dame.
Yeah. So I'm wondering like how that's different for schools like us that are just D1 in hockey. There's a lot of schools like that kind of struggling to navigate the NIL atmosphere against some of those bigger teams.
It seems like it's not, thinking specifically for hockey, I don't know how much NIL had to do with it, but when former hockey coach Patolny left, he had the #1 recruiting class, correct? And then he ended up departing, and that just kind of...
Literally within a day, like, all fell apart.
Yeah, the team had to, like, completely reset from that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, like you mentioned, like, when you talk about Northern Michigan specifically, the D1 athletes, where's the money coming from?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's coming from the hockey, it's coming from those games. So I do think, it's tough to kind of... Do you treat the D1 program differently? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Do you pay them more? Potentially, is it different than volleyball? Like you mentioned, the players that don't get to play, is there different regulations where if you're not getting a specific amount of playing time, can you move forward and go somewhere else? I'm not sure.
What? Because I know all three of you, I'm the only Michigan State fan, but all three are Michigan fans. Because I know, Jack, you mentioned how you told me that you have had some criticisms with the coach. What do you think of the future of Michigan football? Yeah, because I know you guys are big Michigan fans. You went to Michigan.
That is correct,
went to Michigan. You were in the marching band. You saw firsthand about the trouble with the snap. Sorry,
yep.
Sorry, I didn't want to give you PTSD there. Future of Michigan football. What does that look like to you guys?
They, like you mentioned with the recruiting class, it looks great. Sharon.
Yeah. What's Sharon? What do you think of him?
I was interested in how he was kind of selected when Harbaugh left. Mm-hmm. It seemed like Harbaugh didn't necessarily want to leave, and he kind of went to avoid some penalties, going to the NFL. It seems like the fan base is not super happy with Sharon right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because Jack mentioned it. Michigan gets a win against Michigan State, and then after the game, if you're a Michigan fan, I don't know how good you feel about it. Obviously, you want to you going into it, Michigan was the favorite, but I'm not really liking how they're playing or how they're winning games. Bryce Underwood, I don't think is being utilized to the best of his abilities. I would like to see him more in the run game. I don't know. Chip Lindsley is a good offensive coordinator, but the offense has struggled a little bit. If the running game's not getting going, they struggle scoring points. When you talk about Ohio State coming up. Now, granted, last season, I don't know how many yards they passed for in that game. It was very little, but you didn't really have to pass.
It was more than Northern Michigan.
Right, games. So they showed they can win in a certain style, but it doesn't seem like they've played their best yet.
Hypothetically, if Michigan State won on Saturday, would you want the head coach's head on a pike? Metaphorically speaking.
I would say the seat would be getting a lot warmer. You talk about, Jonathan Smith potentially being let go after this season. Just off how the fan base is feeling from an overall outside perspective, it doesn't seem like people are completely happy, even though they are playing a true freshman quarterback who's shown like he has potential, and I do feel like they're going in the right direction. There's just times where you're just like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You're making everything so difficult. Everything seems like a challenge.
That's me every week at Northern. What are you doing, Coach?
I mean, I've touched on it on previous shows, too. I feel like all the talent is there and the recruiting is there, and so it's up to him to utilize the talent that he's recruited. Yeah. On the offensive side of the ball, you're seeing questionably how Bryce is being used, but I think defensively, too, he's been I know he's an offensive coach, but he's been very patient with Wake Martindale when Wake Martindale has really been burned both last year and this year in multiple games. So I don't really know like what the specific problem is per se, but I think he's got to find a way to scheme better against some of these better opponents. You know, you've got Purdue, Maryland, like very winnable, fairly easy games coming up. But I think you've got to have a very strong game plan for Ohio State because the give USC receivers cushion plan didn't work. And the don't hit John Mateer plan also didn't work. So finding a plan that's going to work against what is currently on paper seemingly the best team in college football, I think is going to be important from a Michigan fan perspective. But hey, we can always say at least we're not Michigan State.
Yeah. All right. Do you wanna talk about this question or go straight here?
I'll talk about my question.
Okay.
What experiences have you guys had with pro sports, both in the media industry and kind of as fans? How do you feel both about the state of Michigan, and I guess with you being a Bears fan, it's kind of a little bit different. But like, how do you feel overall about our pro sports teams, and like, what experiences have you had with pro sports from a media angle, I guess?
Yeah, I'll start. I have covered, pro sports throughout my career at WBP, WJMN. Multiple Packer games, Pistons games, Lions as well. I guess my best memory or my best experience is I was at a Sunday night football game between the Packers and Bears in Lambeau Field. It was magical. We were right on the field. We had, access in the tunnel. I was standing on the sideline next to Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and company, which was really neat. We just recently, Thorne and I recently was at the NFL draft in Green Bay, which was really fun. Kind of got a behind the scenes look and met a lot of cool people and different media members from across, the national platforms and things like that. Don't get to go out to professional sports as much, being a small market, and the travel and things like that is maybe I would want to, but here and there we would get to go out and cover some of the NFL teams and professional sports teams.
Yeah, we absolutely talk about them, but yeah, like Jake said, obviously not a ton of opportunities to go in person currently working up here. The NFL draft was a super cool highlight, getting to see so many people packed into like the streets of Green Bay. That's just such a cool atmosphere, which I can admit as a Bears fan. But it kind of has that like college stadium feel where you're in the middle of the neighborhood and then come up on the stadium. We did see James Franklin there.
We did, yes.
That was an interesting experience.
Okay. I know you guys. Actually, I don't know.
I was gonna talk about the state of Michigan and their sports teams. I think it's about as good
at the same time.
I was about to say, I think it's good right now. Probably better than I could ever remember. I mean, you got the Detroit Lions, who are again going to be a Super Bowl contender. I'm a huge Detroit Pistons fan. I grew up a Pistons fan. I was actually at the Pistons Pacers, not the brawl game. I wasn't at the brawl game. Not the Mouse
at the Palace.
It was when the Pistons returned to the Palace of Auburn Hills after following the brawl. The first time they were back there. Steven Jackson, I think, dropped like 40 points and the Pacers beat the Pistons, which wasn't a great memory. But that's when I fell in love kind of with the Pistons, obviously the go-to-work Pistons and things like that. They're a team that's up and coming. I expect them to be a playoff team. Obviously, we see the Detroit Tigers. They're on the cusp of doing something great. Their ownership is maybe not wanting to dedicate as much financially, but I know Tigers fans, they got to be happy with at least just the success they've had over the recent years. The Detroit Red Wings may be a different story. The Iser plan hasn't come together as quickly as you may have wanted it to.
You got to give massive credit to Dan Campbell, though, for the Lions. That was just such a bleak franchise for so many years. And then within a couple of years, they get hit on great draft picks.
Do you think the curse of Bobby Lane was real?
I mean, they haven't won a Super Bowl yet, so remains to be seen.
Okay.
They are a team that really needed that culture. Yeah. And you see all of the Detroit pro franchises with the grit. You hear grit. We want to be gritty. We want to, have teams not want to come in and play us. I think it started with Detroit, spilled over to the Detroit Lions. It started with Dan Campbell. That kind of spilled over to the Detroit Pistons. They want to get back to go-to-work Pistons. They want to play defense. They want to be physical. And it kind of reflects the city of Detroit. That's when these Detroit teams accept kind of that that role and that culture is when you see these teams doing their best. Will the Red Wings get to that? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Again, the Tigers are, for what they have talent wise, they may have overachieved these last couple of years, but I think they've done really well as well. But it all comes down to we want to be a gritty team, physical, and you see some of these pro teams doing that, and it's worked. But yeah, the Lions, as a Packer fan, they look good. Not going to lie.
Well, we have reached the bottom of the hour. So for anyone who is just joining us, this is the Jack and Dom radio show here on WPX 91.5 FM HD1 Marquette. We are doing an interview with Thorne and Jake Durant. I always have to be careful because Jake and Jack are named so close together. I feel like I will mess them up and flip them. And at work, I've accidentally called Jake Jack 2 times. I think 2 times you've caught me doing that. So want to be careful. So I remember a few weeks ago, WJMN TV did an online poll for the community on Packers versus Lions. And when it comes to, I know we're in the state of Michigan, but when it comes to drive time, we're closer to Green Bay. And so are we in Marquette Packers country or are we Lions country? Or is it or is there really a middle ground in there?
Yeah, I mean, Jake could speak better to Marquette, but being from Norway, when I was growing up, Lions never being in the playoffs, it was way more Packers fans. The Lions fans have kind of reawoken the last couple of years since they've been better. So I think it varies a lot across the UP. Norway is only about 90 minutes from Green Bay.
Yeah.
So I think that plays a big part in it. But the last couple of years, the amount of Lions fans I've seen
is Norway right on the border?
It is right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say it's probably leaning a little bit more Detroit Lions fans today. Back when I was growing up, I'm from Marquette. I saw a lot of Packers fans. Obviously, their Lions were struggling throughout the decades and things like that. But you really see, Lions fans should be proud. They're proud of their franchise. They're proud of the success they had. They've been waiting a long time for this. And I would say up here, probably leaning a little bit more Lions fans currently.
Yeah. I think that poll that we did was 60-40 Lions.
Yeah, there's a nice mix. There's a nice mix, like you mentioned. It's a 3-hour drive to Green Bay. You can get to a Packer game and get back in one day. It's a little bit more commitment if you want to go down to Detroit.
It's 7 hours, I think.
Yeah, but I would say there's a nice mix, and I think that's what makes the area so unique. Is you have a strong, passionate Green Bay Packers fan base and a very strong and passionate Detroit Lions fan base, and when those two teams go head to head, it's fun. It's a fun experience.
I think being Michigan resonates with people. Like they want to cheer for Michigan teams, but Green Bay being so pretty consistently in the playoffs since the 90s with Brett Favre, I feel like that just kind of drew people in. But we definitely are seeing it kind of balance.
You wanna add a question?
I think I like your question on here, so I think we should go around the room and all share a hot take on sports, and I think you should start.
So I left this question a little bit open because I know you two have relationships with coaches, coordinators, other sports people all across the UP and all across the region. So what is, at least something you're willing to share, a hot take in sports that you have?
I mean, I'm not sure this is like a super hot take, but I did think this would open up some good conversation. I want to go back to the NBA. I'm a huge NBA fan, and I know we just had the season tip off. And this was a discussion I had, in the past. The NBA, since Steph Curry entered the NBA, you've seen the NBA evolve into a shooters league, obviously.
The three-pointer.
Yeah. There's been calls for adding a 4-point line. You're seeing high school kids pull up from the logos in high school games, which when I used to play, if I did that, I would not see the floor probably for the rest of that game.
Yeah.
Maybe the next game. I'll probably be running sprints throughout the week as well. I want to see there's been talk about like viewership declining in the NBA and things like that, and what the NBA can do to kind of fix that and things like that. What if we try to move the game back inside the 3-point line?
Mm-hmm. Get the mid-range back.
Get the mid-range back. Get down low. Get the centers and the front court players a little bit more shine. What if we capped the 3-point limit? This is not something I'm just bringing out of nowhere. This has kind of been on the table. Cap the number of 3-point shots to 20. A team gets 20 threes per game. Use it how you wish. Make the dunk 3 points. So you make the dunk 3 points, you cap it. It adds more strategy to the game. It brings the game inside the 3-point line. It puts more value on rim protectors such as like Isaiah Stewart, who his, I guess, skills aren't as valued right now. But you talk about having to protect the rim and stop a player from dunking the ball. I think that's great. Now, it could ultimately break the league with Victor Wembanyama currently in the league right now. He would run the league. He would maybe run the league a little bit, but I feel like it would add a little bit of flair.
Okay.
Cap the 3-point line, make dunks 3 points, and see what happens.
Tor, what's your hot take?
For me, the last couple of years, though, the NBA season has started when the Bulls lose the play-in game, because it's just been so uninspiring. And they're allergic to trading for draft picks. They'll trade their best assets and get like a mid player in return. But I think that would draw more interest in the league. I don't know about the capping the number of threes.
Yeah.
That seems like that would change the game quite a bit.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like the 3-point dunk. I think that sounds fun. Mac McClung would actually get a roster spot.
All the like big men that come out of Purdue every year, they always have like a 7'5" big guy. They'd be like number 1 draft pick every year.
Yeah.
And normally they're busts, so that would change.
A hot take, I don't know, for me, there's a rule in the NCAA where when it comes to what division your school is in, your football and basketball programs have to be what the floor, right? So like for us at NMU, our alpine skiing and hockey teams are D1. And everything else is D2. If our basketball program, for example, was so good, so consistently good for so long that we moved to Division 1, everything else has to move up with it, including our football program. We will now surround the FCS, but I don't like that rule, to be honest. I think if our basketball program moves up to D1, I don't think our football program and everything else has to move up with it. I don't know. And then there's also a rule that if you're in the FBS, you have to play. I think you're allowed one FCS opponent. If you play another FCS opponent, it doesn't count towards bowl eligibility, and your FCS opponent has to have athletic scholarships. That's why the Ivy League doesn't play FBS programs anymore. Because if an FBS does play, it doesn't count towards bowl eligibility. Now with NIL, now with Ivy League, for example, now going to the FCS playoffs starting this year, I don't think that rule should apply anymore. And we can bring back the oldest rivalry in sports, Princeton versus Rutgers. That started college football over 120 years ago. Maybe you can bring that one back. I think that's my hot take. What do you think?
You have been seeing the NMU basketball team in particular has had a lot of success, men's and women's, the last couple of years. Do you feel like if they were to move up, that would allow them to recruit or keep better players that might want to go D1?
Yeah, I think and I'm not saying this as someone who volunteers for the basketball program. I legitimately believe that we can compete in the Horizon League. We can probably beat half the teams in the Horizon League, especially if we have a bunch of home games. I also believe here is my hot take. If we move to Division 1, I think Michigan Tech would also move to Division 1 maybe a year or two later, because they want a piece of that. And maybe Lake Superior State might consider it. But considering that Michigan Tech is our rivals, I think they would try to like work their way up to Division I, especially in basketball and football and stuff like that. I think our sport could be okay. Our football team, though, not so much. But
I feel like if there were programs that could make the jump from D2 to D1, it would be the basketball programs.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of difference between a high-end D2 program, which is a Northern
there's a lot of overlap,
to a lower-end D1 program. Northern is now in a position where they're starting to see transfers kind of come in. I think his name's Charlie Miller. From North.
He came from Green Bay.
He came down. He's a low-end D1 player that wanted to come down and get more playing time. Max Weisbrod from a couple years ago went up to Northern Iowa. So they're kind of right on that cusp. We just saw Michigan Tech take down UW Green Bay recently.
Nobody that was
competing. So they're there. I mean, they could do it. I could see that. Obviously, football would be a little different.
That would be interesting.
The problem with the football team is it's just hard to recruit.
Speaking of the football team, I think this is the juiciest topic I want to talk about with you guys, because I know a few weeks ago I talked to you, Jake, about the football team, and at the time you were still a Shane Richardson believer. Have you changed your mind now that we have lost to Michigan Tech and we're probably going to get hit hard again against Ferris?
Obviously, I speak to Coach Richardson a lot in my position, and I'm never going to call for anyone's job. Obviously, results do matter in that position. You talk about Northern snapping recently. What was it, like a 20-something game?
28 losing streak, a school record.
The results haven't been there. We talked about it before. I am a Shane Richardson believer. I do think he has what it takes to turn things around. In this day and age, you have to do it rather quickly. And I know he's kind of reaching that point where we're not seeing the results we want to see right now. But I do believe I have seen progress. There's no moral victories.
Yeah.
Tor mentioned it. Tor was at the game and we were in a group chat, and he said, at halftime, he texted the chat. He said, NMU, this should be a 21-21 game.
If they had been able to complete their drives when they got to the red zone and they had some errors, there was one where they had like 3 false starts in a row that they were within.
I saw that. What is that?
There have been multiple games this season, 3-4 games where they've been in the game competing. They took St. Thomas. To the edge early in the season. So
I interviewed their coach, and
there is progression. And I was there when Shane got hired. I saw the state of the program. He got hired late in the cycle, couldn't do any recruiting. The transfer portal was alive and well. Any of the good players that NMU had obviously hit the transfer portal and things like that. That first year I kind of felt like was a wash. He kind of just had to see what he had and go from there. But at the end of the day, you got to have results. So I still believe that if Shane sticks around, he has what it takes to turn things around. The problem with the team is the quarterback position. Now, I'm not saying they don't have a quarterback on the roster, but when you look at the box score and you see them throw it one time a game, I mean, that's crazy to me.
Like one-dimensional.
Yeah. You talk about a team like Tech. Their defense has to be licking their chops coming into the game because you do not have to worry about the pass. What do you do?
You can sell the pass.
Yeah, and even if they do complete a couple passes, you're not going to get consistent production from their passing game where you really have to worry about it. That's the big thing. They whether it be a quarterback that they have to develop on the roster or bring a guy in. I graduated from NMU in 2014. It was the closest they've come to having a winning season since 2009. What they had Shea Brown was a difference maker at quarterback under center. I think he still holds the record for single game passing yards. They had Marcus Tucker, who went on to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, out on the outside as a receiver. And then they had Keandre Craig, who was a really, really good receiver on the other side, who ended up transferring to Ferris State because he was, a really good deep threat. And they had a really good running back as well. You need difference makers at the positions that mean the most. I'm not saying the trenches don't mean anything, but when you can't throw the ball, you don't have receivers that can make consistent plays. Their running game's been pretty solid at points, which is nice. But you need that quarterback that when things break down, when things don't go right, they can make the plays. Right now, they don't have that. I'm not saying they don't have it on the roster. Somebody could develop. I don't want to take anything away from the current players there, but they need to find a difference maker at quarterback, whoever that may be.
As someone who's been going to the games, though, for the last 3 years, this year compared to 2 years ago, the level of competitiveness in the games is markedly different. Now, like we were saying, we'll have success on offense, get into the red zone, and then find a way to not score.
Mess it up.
They ended up attempting 3 field goals in the first half, missing 2 of them. I believe their starting kicker was not playing.
That is correct.
But the offense is also kind of designed to not throw the ball very often. Whether or not they should reevaluate that?
Yeah, in today's game, like this offense, in my opinion, looks like something from what my grandpa used to play when he was in high school in the 50s.
Just look at the team up in Houghton, the way they played, how their offense. They have really good skill position players. Alex Bueno is a really good quarterback for them. They've been able to recruit in their own backyard. You bring in a guy like Nick Nora, who went to Kingsford. He looks like a legitimate option that, obviously chose Michigan Tech. I'm sure Northern was looking at him as well. So you're losing the recruiting battle in your own backyard, and then you're just having trouble finding and retaining talent. But look at what Michigan Tech's doing. They look like a legit offense that can hurt you in the run game, and they have Ethan Champney, Nick Nora, guys like that who are on the outside.
I think my biggest concern is there's times in the game where you as a head coach, there's certain things that you could be doing to turn things around. So like when I'm at the football games, and I've been at every football game this year, and I went to like 3 or 4 of them last year. So like I haven't been around as long as you guys, but I've been around a good chunk of the St. Richardson era. And what I see is like, for example, I sit over like where the statistics people are. So I'm right above the media over in the press box. And so I get like a bird's eye view of the plays as they unfold. And I also get the offensive coordinator, and I think the defensive coordinator's up there too, to my right. So I can hear them like calling out different plays and like yelling at the players, like get in position, But what I saw the most of was there would be plays that were reviewable. So there was Tech was like going in to score, but they fumbled at the 2-yard line. It was recovered by NMU, and they called him down. And NMU had ample time to challenge the play. My thought process was, it's a close game. You need to get the ball back. You need these points. Like, you don't want Tech to go score a touchdown here. Like, you effectively have nothing to lose here. If you lose the challenge, you lose a timeout, which, I think in previous games they've done a poor job of using their timeouts. So I'm not that concerned about using a timeout. And if you win this challenge, you get the ball at the 2 and you prevent Tech from scoring 7. And I believe they were up 3-0 at that point. So that would have been a nice little kind of momentum changing play. But like they didn't even make any like sort of attempt or motion to make that challenge. And then Tech walked in the end zone, I think, on the very next play. And then you also had when they were towards the goal line on that drive where they had 3 false starts, even before the false starts. And then after, like, once they got behind the sticks, they had really no ability to throw the ball. And that kind of
there was what, 2 forward pass completion,
something
3?
like that. It was rough. Like, I think ultimately it boils down to
all under 20 yards,
questionable coaching decisions. You look at the 3 games at the beginning of the year that were very close. And again, there were multiple challengeable plays that Shane didn't challenge. There were, I forget which game it was, but one of the games they lost in a close one, they had like 4 or 5 fumbles, which is like a coaching fundamental, like gotta hang on to the ball. And there were just some questionable play calls, I think, across the board. I think part of it too is like if the offense and defense like are not working like they haven't been in the past 2.5 years, I'm not understanding why they don't change up the scheme a little bit or, fire a coordinator or move some pieces around on the coaching staff, like something. Like, I think it's been a lot of the same over the 3 years. And so I think as a fan, it's like I watch other teams cycle coordinators, cycle schemes, cycle players, like move things around to make it work. And I don't think NMU has really changed a lot of their fundamentals. I understand, like, we are a very good running football team, and like that is what we want to do. We want to be
especially against
team.
Roosevelt.
But other than against Roosevelt, like, it hasn't worked. So I'm wondering, like, and maybe you guys know more because you talk to the coaching staff a lot, but like, why they haven't tried to move some things around and make things work? Because it feels like it's the same play call game after game after game. It's either
triple option. It's triple option and T-power.
Right. Like, that's all it feels like they run. So like, what do you guys kind of think about that, like, to our fans?
Yeah.
Some of it was definitely in garbage time. I believe by the end of this past game, they had 18 pass attempts. I personally really liked seeing Trevor Tarakoff get under center because we saw him play at Menominee and take them to the state title game a couple years ago, and they threw it constantly. And I felt he was really skilled in the preseason. Then we saw him getting work at receiver, and so I remember asking Jake at the time, like, shouldn't we like give him a shot? I feel like he can be a talented thrower of the football. Will they utilize him in that way, I guess, is the question. Right now, it seems like not. But he had some nice throws on Saturday from what I saw.
Yeah. I mean, Jack, you bring up, good points. As a coaching staff, you need to be able to call a game, be there during the challenge, make the correct calls when it comes to challenging and kind of go through a game and be able to make, like you mentioned, false starts, things like that. That all boils down to coaching. I guess for me, to me, it just seems like they're trying to mold their offense around their personnel and what they have available right now. They obviously just don't have trust in who they have under center to kind of give him the reins of the offense. I'm not sure their skill position situation is where they want it to be as well. So, but again, like you mentioned, things haven't been working for several years. Are you just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results?
That's the definition of insanity.
Exactly. So yeah. I don't think that's something that you want to do.
So Jake believes the coach is insane. Got it. We got him.
I got him.
I got it. Episode 10.
We got him.
I got one closing question for you guys. And just that's, what do you think about the current state of the hockey team? How do you think we're going to do the next couple of years? I think I'm pretty optimistic about the hockey team, which, as Dom knows, working with me, optimism for me is very rare.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what you guys think about how you think the hockey team's going to do this year and moving forward under Coach Shayak and kind of with what they're trying to build.
Yeah, it still seems like it's going to take time for him to get the personnel that he wants, especially with where they had to start from last year. I was at the game Friday, and the first period in particular, I thought they were super competitive against Michigan State. You were talking about how chippy it was.
Yeah.
They had some opportunities. They weren't able to actually score, but at one point they were leading on shots on goal. So if it keeps going this way, I think they could have a solid year. I don't know how far they're going to go in the end, but
yeah. I mean, early signs have shown you gotta like where the team is. Obviously, you're not close to where you want to be, but Coach Shayak. There's one thing I remember his opening presser when he got introduced. He said, we're going to play hard. We're going to compete. We're going to bring that physicality. This is a former player that used to play here. Used to.
I think he was an assistant for a few years.
So he knows what it takes. He knows what it can be when it looks right. But like you mentioned, was it 2-2 against Michigan State after the second quarter on Saturday? This is, we're talking about the number one team in the country, and you're competing with them. Obviously, when CCHA play rolls around, you expect Northern to be in a lot of these games, win a few of the games. I think that's a good expectation to have. Will they win the league? I'm not sure about that, but as long as you're competing. You're winning a few games here and there, and you're putting yourself in a position to potentially make some noise and be in that upper half of the conference. I think that would be a good season for the hockey team. But early signs have shown you got to like some of the talent he's brought in already. You got to like the way they've been playing, and they've been playing well against. They've had a really tough schedule early on. I mean, they played a lot of ranked opponents and things like that, and they've hung in there. And I think that's a good sign.
I know that before we sign off, I know that with you guys, with the jobs that you do, it's mainly just, hey, this is what happened, and here's an analysis of it, or like a breakdown of what happened. So being able to share maybe like more of a sports opinion, I know that's something that you guys don't necessarily have many opportunities to do. So I think this was definitely a win-win for all of us. But my last question I do want to ask before we sign off: if you weren't doing what you're doing now, like, what would you be doing instead of sports on TV? What would your plan be?
I mean, I'll go first. I was a biology major my first year here at NMU. 1 year in, I was like, this isn't for me. So I went into media production and new technology and business. And that kind of brought me down the route to TV, which has been really cool. If it didn't work out, I would probably go back to school. I would probably get into like CIS or something like that. Pharmacy is something that I wish I maybe have looked into early on in my college career as well. So definitely opposite of the sports world, but I would go like pharmacy or like computer informations, something in like the computer field. I have a friend who works remote in Arizona that gets paid, a lot of money.
Six figure.
Yeah. And he's, living good right now, being able to work from home and very smart guy. Obviously it's not easy by any means, but I think that would be the route.
It's a good question. I always felt like I wanted to do something in the world of sports. So I feel like I would, if it wasn't for TV, I would want to somehow stick in the kind of vicinity, maybe of working for a team or, a college department or something like that.
Like some behind the scenes for a university or maybe for a professional team. Okay. Pharmacy, I didn't know had interest in that. Well, thank you. Thank you both of you for coming in today. Taking time out of your day. Before we sign off, do you want to say anything, Jack?
I just want to express my appreciation to you guys for coming. It's really incredible that you were able to come on the show. So thank you so much for giving us your time. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Tom, for making it possible. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in this business, it is a little more of who you know than what you know, but still what you know does matter. But anyway, this is the Jack and Dom radio show here on WPX 91.5 FM HD1 Marquette. We will see you guys again next week.